Hi, I'm Gianluca Fiorelli, and today we have at the research session a person that I consider a really good friend because in our industry we know many people. We get to know and get intimate sometimes with person, but really friends, just very few. And I think that this person is a really good friend, more than just a colleague. Everybody knows him. Let's let's try to guess who he is. I mean, in the early days, it was known as the man with the yellow shoes. He was the founder of a very famous first blog, then consultancy, then as a software as a service company. He wrote a book. He lives in Seattle. Maybe for certain things, his wife is more famous than him. And this person is Rand Fishkin. Hey, Rand, how are you doing?
Ciao, buongiorno, buonasera. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Thank you for having me, Gianluca. This is my favorite. This is my favorite introduction. Usually people say, "Oh, he accomplished all these things, did all this stuff." I like someone who says, "This is my friend." You can't
Well,
beat that.
I think I'm lucky enough to be able to do this kind of introduction because actually we are friends. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. But
just
oh,
as an anecdote for our listeners and watchers. Apart of it, we get to know virtually many years ago because I was substantially spamming the comments of mods at the
look,
time,
people
SEO
think
mods.
people think
I
build
think I'm still
relationships with
in
comments,
the.
but you can.
I don't think that most still doing the gamification that was invented back in
No.
the days. But if they stop it, I was still, even if I wasn't commenting for years, I was still at the top. Apart you, because
That's true.
obviously you were the super top. And then we know in this, I think it was the second edition of Search Love in London,
Hmm.
casually because we were both dining in a Greek restaurant in front of a conference place. And
Incredible.
so you say, "Hey, you're Gianluca." Yeah. Okay, so I practically had two dinners because one by myself and then invited again by all the team of the speakers. And yeah, yes, I'm. Is so yes. Why? I mean, if I know the person, why be obliged to be so formal? Let's
What
try to.
I think this is wonderful. You know what I appreciate about it? It puts primacy of the most important thing first, which in my opinion is not professional accomplishments or knowledge. It's relationships.
Yeah.
That's to me that's what matters the most. And I don't know, ever since my experiences, post Moz, relationships first, business great, but it's secondary.
Yes, and I think it's also because it's making a little bit more general. It's because I'm Italian, I live in Spain, I'm a Mediterranean. It's in our nature to be so, to
Yeah.
be, yeah, open socially. Even if you are an introverted, you are maybe more extroverted than an introverted American.
Yeah, it's cultural. It's cultural. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that this is something Americans can definitely learn from their Mediterranean cousins, which is it's good. And South and Latin America too. My God,
Yes.
I mean, very social places. But hopefully someday the U.S. learns.
Let's see. But okay, so let's move. I mean, I would continue with this kind of conversation, but maybe we are going to retake it at the end of the episode. Now let's go for taking respect of the time of our watchers. I usually ask to all my guests this question, but I was doubting because formally, and I mean, you are even joke about this because you're always and top SEO and you're and you see Rand Fishkin and you say, I don't do SEO anymore.
No,
No, it's true.
it's true.
But and so I would because my usually my question is how SEO is treating you lately. I will say, hey, this is not a question for Rand.
Hmm.
So I was thinking, how do you see SEO from the perspective of not being an SEO anymore?
Hmm. Yeah. Interesting. For I think for the first few years after I left Moz and left SEO, which for folks who don't know or might not know, so my first company, Moz, was in SEO software space. And when I left, I had a non-compete agreement, right? So basically I had to sign a contract, which in some parts of the United States are illegal, but not where I live. Sign a contract saying that I wouldn't do anything to do with SEO for, I want to say, I think it was 2 years. And then Moz was sold, the company was sold, and they made me sign another one in order to do the deal. So then it became, I want to say 5 years in total. And so basically if I wanted to do SEO, I could only start doing it this year or last year. And I just haven't practiced, I haven't kept up. But from an external perspective, the perception that I have is that it's a very strange place where there's a perception that the field is shrinking or in trouble or problematic. But when you look at the statistics of, how many people are employed in SEO, how many people are doing SEO, how many people are learning SEO, how many people are still searching for SEO types of things in Google, it's never really fallen. It's only grown. I think SEO has become a core part of digital marketing, in a way that, Gianluca, when you and I were coming up in the field, we were trying to get respect. We were trying to get budget. We were trying to get companies and corporations to pay any attention to SEO. And now everybody has an SEO team. Everybody has SEO practices. Everybody invests in it. And so it's this huge, mature industry with, billion-dollar players in people like SEMrush and Ahrefs and, other tools, public companies too. And so I think it's still an interesting place to be.
Yes, totally. I think that the classic SEO is that thing is more a PR thing because it sells quite a lot. I don't know now with AI overview how many clicks are going to have this kind of articles, but I think it's that. And I think that just as perception I have, the big majority of the SEO community always felt itself as the nerd
Yeah,
guy.
sure.
And so the one not saying like Mulder in X-File working in the
In
down
the basement.
level, yes.
Yeah.
But somehow similar. And it was the cool guys were the social media and people. And the obscure ones, the ABSEO. So there is some sort of grief for this past that maybe they had, and also some sort of conscious sense of inferiority. So whenever they feel that something is going to shake the certainty they have, they go down in a big depression. They are essentially, yes,
Yeah.
this sort of psychological issue more than something real. Because sincerely, now that everybody say AI is going to kill SEO, I never received so many pitch.
I think you're absolutely right that there is an inferiority complex in the psyche of most SEOs, and my suspicion is that's because of, for the first 10 or 15 years that the practice existed, Google actively suggested that SEO is unnecessary, SEO is spam, you don't need an SEO, just make good content. Developers and publishers and all these other folks in the field were naysayers, right? They didn't believe in SEO. They didn't want to prioritize it. The software engineering world hated SEO, thought everyone who did that was spam. So I think there was just so much of the field's history, and this is recent history, right? We're talking up until maybe 2012, 13, 14, that there was just no respect given and fighting for every scrap. So sure, it's 10 years later, but I don't think that psychological impact is going to go away anytime soon, versus something like the advertising field or social media marketing, influencer marketing, creator marketing, email marketing, right? These are all fields where you didn't have that same fight for budget. You didn't have that same fight for
No, also I think because I think that all the, let's say, marketing channels, let's convert so related to digital, they are all technical marketing. But SEO is probably the most technical of the marketing. So
Yeah.
there is always and being in the SEO community, this sort of pendulum between everything. SEO is 99% technical and 1% content. And then content is king and technical, blah, something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when
Well,
you know that.
I
But
am relatively excited for the AI era, whether that's actually people using AI tools, which I think is still relatively small, or whether it's Google using AI. I'm excited for that to make a big change in what people are working on and worried about. And my suspicion is there's going to be technical portions of SEO that still matter, but there's going to be a lot more opportunity for creative, and that's because and content, because most of how AI works is not links and keywords and um,
no, I think that, yes, I agree with you. I think that the most interesting part of AI is that this is somehow can introduce a new topic in our conversation is even if there is this sort of popping up of new tools for tracking prompts, but I don't know how much useful it is to track prompt whenever, because if keywords can be in the trillions, prompts can be in the gazillions, because apart from that, one prompt can receive 10 different answer because of
did you
personalization.
did you
So
see Ross Hudgens's LinkedIn post yesterday? And then
yes, yes, I
my
was.
comment, yeah.
Yeah, yes, I was. But I was agreeing with your comment because that's why when I eventually will talk about another type of analysis that I do. But because we don't have the data in some sense, I think that the best in our industry are coming back to the marketing route. So audience analysis, what really we should create content about, what is the product about. So let's say if we are a software as a service doing branding enablement, not let's go talking about, I don't know, cooking. So going so wide. And I think that this is one good effect of AI because it's obliging people to be creative and not so with a definition that I always dislike, so data driven. I always prefer data informed because data driven is somehow like a robot because I can say the statistic is saying that if I go to this way, I go faster. But why faster? Because maybe it's a cliff. So I go faster to a direction where I have to go, which is something that happens to me in the Canaries because I forgot to switch the Google Maps. You know that Google Maps is telling you, you by default the fastest route.
Oh,
But
right.
in the Canarias, the fastest route is taking streets that are like this instead of doing the classic longer curves. So I was, so that is being data driven, and the other one is being data informed. So I think that this is not having data to be driven by, you have to just pick up the data you have and return to pick up the real data that you really need and not just be guided by, I don't know, what is a Google Analytics telling to you or what 10 million keywords clustered are telling to you because they are telling to you what people are already seeing you for, but not for what they are not seeing you and so on. So I think this is maybe the not so talk best advantage of the AI in search era. Then obviously there are many things that also can go wrong. As you can start to see spamming as it was 2005 because it's substantially like this. We are living somehow that a situation like 20 years ago when SEO was still relatively young, and because we have to experiment because we don't have that much knowledge, so experimenting to do also the blackest thing possible. So I was coming to you for our public. You are also a CEO of Snack Bar Studio, which is a company, a small independent company where you're going producing and you're in the beta testing of a video game. So
Yeah.
let's use the metaphor of a video game and let's use as our character Google, OpenAI, and the people in the middle, which are us, the marketers. If you would need to create a story, Google and OpenAI and the marketers, what kind of characters would it be? Google would be the classic big boss, or OpenAI the hero? I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a hero. Or the hero should be the people in the middle. What do you
I
envision
mean,
this kind of?
yeah, if I had to craft an analogy there, I think the hero are the users, right? That's what everyone is making everything else for. And so marketers are sort of one piece of the puzzle, and then
Mhm.
these other platforms are sort of the challenges, right? So marketers are almost a tool, and the people who create things, the people who invent things, the people who make products and services and content, that's the hero. In my view, that's the hero. And then marketers are just a tool, right? We're someone who helps people get their product in the places where their audience can pay attention. And Google and OpenAI to a small degree, Reddit, Pinterest, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Bing, Yahoo, all of those are gatekeepers, right? So they're sort of the little mini bosses to defeat so that you can reach your audience.
Yes, cool. Maybe someone should take the classic hero journey and invent a video game with this sort of draft. Would be
I don't
cool.
know how well it would sell, and you'd probably have a lot of copyright issues.
Yeah, yes, probably. But I mean, as I was saying before, especially SEO are very geek. So probably the SEO community will buy it. So it would be very niche.
It is a big industry.
Mm, And I have a question for you. You say that, okay, I'm not an SEO anymore. But sincerely, don't you think that SparkToro, for instance, is a wonderful tool also for SEO?
Well, I think SparkToro is a wonderful tool for marketers, and some SEOs, at least the SEOs who practice content distribution, especially, and influencing people in places outside of traditional search engines and AI tools. Yes, I think that SparkToro is excellent for that. But at the core of SEO is sort of what are people searching for or prompting AI tools for? What is being returned, and how do I get more visible or higher up in those results? And SparkToro doesn't directly help with those things, right? SparkToro is about audience research fundamentally. So it's saying, hey, this group of people, what YouTube channels they subscribe to, what subreddits are they following, what websites do they visit, are they using Google to search more, or ChatGPT to search more, or Perplexity? And those questions, I think, come before you do SEO rather than in the middle or after. That's not to say some people don't use this for their content distribution and their PR, and those tactics might be part of what they do for SEO, but we're not intentionally doing it. As I mentioned before, Gianluca, I had to be very careful to make sure that SparkToro is not an SEO tool, because otherwise I would be in violation of my contract.
Obviously. But anyway, even if SparkToro is not a tool meant for SEO, because it is not, it's a tool for marketing in general, it's a tool for discover for audience analysis, especially. But audience analysis is important for social media, for email marketing, for all the marketers, for the CMO above them. And for an SEO, it's important when you have to design a strategy. Now, for instance, we know that we need to understand the audience before in order to also better research, inform our research about what do we search, what do we do. So the best way, for instance, in my case, when I use SparkToro for this kind of works, is say, okay, this is the type of audiences that my client is trying to target.
Mhm.
So let's see what Reddit, because SparkToro is making my work easier. Instead of using a tool and scraping all the potential Reddit, subreddit that may be yes or not related to my targeted audiences, I can start from the ones that are recommended by SparkToro. If I want to because SEO is not just positioning the text, it's multimodal. ChatGPT is multimodal. AI mode is becoming multimodal. The SERPs are multimodal, and so on. So if I'm not having a YouTube channel, my client doesn't have the force to create a YouTube channel. Who are the YouTubers that I can contact and create co-marketing relation with, maybe on their channel or bringing them on my site? So this is the kind of work that
Yeah.
I think that the kind of use an SEO can have of SparkToro.
Yeah.
So I think it's an excellent tool in this sense for audience marketing, for audience analysis, which is a definition that Amanda always stress about, making the difference between audience analysis and market analysis, which they are not synonymous. Now, let's say that one other big topic of yours, and I remember because I'm honestly proud of it, you wrote about this topic on your blog before, but I think the first time you talked about this was about in the Inbounder 2018 in Madrid, and it was the concept of zero-click search. And there is zero-click search, and I think that AI is increasing to the top this situation because, to be honest, I don't want to be the devil advocate for Google. Everybody's blaming Google because it's CTR-ish, but they never go seeing the CTR of ChatGPT, Anthropic, and all the LLMs. It's ridiculous. Yes, it's super low. So you, with Amanda, you always talk, okay, zero click search, and then you created the subsidiary concept of zero click marketing. And so my question is, now that the search result pages are becoming a space more for awareness, do you think that now the search result pages can be also a place for doing strong zero click marketing?
Yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, our contention is essentially that zero-click marketing is what you can and should do everywhere. That's search, it's social, email, it's in your content, it's in your video marketing, obviously all offline marketing, right? Billboards, radio, television, traditional advertising, all of that is zero click. And it's only in the digital era, Gianluca, that we had this rise of the obsession of how do I drive clicks from platforms back to my site and then figure out what to do with people once they get there. And I would argue that generally traffic, unless you're a publisher who monetizes through advertising, generally traffic is a vanity metric. What you really care about are sales and conversions. And maximizing your traffic will not necessarily maximize your sales and conversions. What you really want, especially now that every platform, social, search, content, no matter what, they are all reducing the clicks that are available. They are all prioritizing keeping people on their site rather than sending them out. And as a result, you have to, if you're a responsible marketer, you have to invest in zero-click marketing. And search, there's still clicks to be had. I saw Cyrus Shepard's piece about like, hey, the click still matters. You can still drive more traffic. You can. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you're fighting an uphill battle, right? You know that Google is shrinking the share of clicks that are available. You know that 10 years from now, there's going to be way fewer clicks available than there are today. And so you have to be thinking about, how do I influence people in search results that get no clicks at all? How do I influence them in the AI overviews or the instant answers or the, whatever results Google is putting on that page, regardless of whether you're going to drive a click? I think this is the biggest shift that SEOs are undergoing. AI is secondary to zero click.
I totally agree. And I think that I started to, because of that zero click, zero search, SERP phenomenon. This is something that I was already thinking before even ChatGPT was a thing, for instance.
I mean,
And
if you were paying attention, right? Like I think I wrote my first report on zero click search in 16 or 17,
yeah,
2016, 2017. And, it's just fallen and so far, I want to say, I think it was 40% of clicks ended without a search. Now it's 60%. It hasn't even been 10 years and we've lost a fifth of all search clicks.
Yes, and in fact, that's why I always said in my personal evolution as an SEO, in this case, in my more strategic facet of being an SEO, and observing also all these kind of features that Google was pushing and relating this. And I always really stressing about, okay, let's stop thinking to the classic search session where someone is searching and clicking immediately, but is navigating. So if it's navigating, let's try to guess, to not to guess, to individuate the most statistical probable path this person are going to do. And that's why I was using Google as a tool, because Google, with the same query refining that is pushing people to new queries, to new search results, is telling us what we should be visible for. And so I think that with things that are so in the mouth of everybody right now, like query fan out, prompt analytics, all these things are just adding up to this substantially this sort of strategy. Is they are not something that are so revolutionary for me. I think because before was using people also search for, the people also ask, the query refinement of the topics, etc., etc., etc. Now I also add the query fan out, but it's then more about all this mass of information clustering in terms of entity search, in this case, in order to very well structure the website. So to target all these potential search journeys. But now it's coming out what, and I want to ask you this thing. Now it's personalization is coming very strong. Let's say in Europe, because your personalization can collide with privacy policy. But let's say in the rest of the world, personalization is going to be very, very big, very a big phenomenon. So that's why analyzing prompts is somehow a titanic job. How can you foresee the possibility to work in a situation of personalization in search, in social media? So I think that awareness, so doing zero-click marketing for awareness and so for visibility is not enough. You must do for memorability.
Brand. It's look, technical marketers are going to hate it. I don't think SEOs, I put myself in the same bucket. I don't think we've ever been good at it, but brand marketing is going to be where it's at. How do you build a brand that is memorable, resonant, emotionally triggering, a brand that sits and sticks in someone's head and that they associate with the problem that you solve and with your particular solution? And brand marketing is rarely achievable through the kinds of marketing that a lot of digital marketers are used to. How do I move up in the Google search results, or get more people to click on my blog, or get an email with a higher open rate? Brand is different. Brand is creating memorable campaigns. It's standing out in people's minds. It is, it's way more than logo and colors and branding. It is emotional triggers, and it is playing to someone's echoic memory and understanding of a space, perception of a field. That's going to be the world. I mean, look, that's been the world that's won for the last 150 years. You can point to almost no brands, such a vanishingly tiny number of brands that have built something truly huge and successful in their space purely on, click-based digital marketing, whether that's PPC or SEO or other kinds of digital ads. It's vanishingly small.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yes.
brand is a solution.
Yes, totally right. Totally right. I totally agree. As someone who didn't didn't do SEO since I started working.
Right. Yeah,
I
you were
was
in
working.
television.
Yes, I was working in television for us. It was totally positioning our brand as a different channel from the other. And if you think it also the most successful internet-based companies, just think of Expedia, but I think of Trivago, especially in the travel industries. They became very successful when they started to do TV ads. Let's
Yep.
set this, and this is something that I know SEO tend to confuse. Actually, there is something that SEO can support branding.
Oh, absolutely.
Big,
Support for
there is
sure.
there are two things. One is the technical part, because structured data, organization, making understand to machine that a brand is a brand. For instance, there was a case that a friend of mine here in Spain told me there is a brand, Spanish, very important Spanish fashion brand of guys of Zara, but it's not Zara, but they have a problem with the knowledge graph. So they are recognized as a brand, as an entity in Spain, but in Google US, they are not recognized, and they are saying like a name, because the brand name is a name and surname. Google doesn't understand it, and this is because they didn't care too much about structured data and knowledge graph. But then there is another thing that I started to do, because I was lucky to have studied semiotics and all these things when I was in university. And it goes substantially against everything that has been said also by Googlers. Say, no, we are not using sentiment analysis. But doing sentiment analysis for SEO is great, because in SEO, people usually cluster keywords for topic. So very neat for clustering. But what I do is, okay, so let's try to see this query. And this is the query find out. It's really interesting to use it. Let's cluster it for the sentiment implied by this query. So you can see urgency or some sort of emotion that is implied by the query.
Right.
So and then I do a third type of clustering, which is analyzing what are the search features that Google is presenting for this query. So usually for this type of query, we have the video pack, we have the image, or for this, people also ask, etc., etc. So I do, okay, cluster this for topic, then cluster this for customer journey, the same queries for customer journey, and then for format and emotion. So I can inform, I have substantially one architecture, but I can inform the nature of the content that should be filled in the architecture, filling the architecture. And doing so, I'm experimenting with a couple of clients. It started to work well because it's resonating. Because I know that probably the click is not going to be so many as they were before, but I started to see random searches related to this kind of content treated this way. Because people resonates more to the people, and so they are searching with the brand and the keyword. So the branded search. And I also see somehow a correlation in visibility on ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on, doing this. So it's really putting what you were saying. The brand has these values. Let's see if this value can resonate in the content, if the
Yeah.
content and the sentiment of a customer or a potential customer can coincident. And so instead of creating the classic guide with the classic 10 places where everybody goes, let's try to find different way to present the same content. So it's a very, very old, the Seth Godin, the purple, I don't remember the color of the purple.
Purple cow.
You know, yeah, it's especially it's bad. It's poor classic marketing.
Yeah.
And okay, so how you and because Parker Toro, we always know Rand Fishkin, we know Amanda, but there is a third person who is a really good friend of mine too, which is Casey Harry, which is the guy in the backstage. So how you and Casey are using AI and introducing AI for your daily work, but also
Yeah.
for the work in Spartoro.
Daily work, not too much, to be honest. But well, okay, I should clarify. Casey does use it for code review kinds of things to write some forms of code that he thinks it's faster or better at. To do some debugging. But I very rarely use AI in my day-to-day work, which is mostly answering people's emails and joining for podcasts like this. I do a lot of social media and content creation. I do a lot of video filming. I do a lot of product development and ideation work, talking to customers, that kind of stuff. I don't find AI to be additive for me. If it is for you, that's great. Inside of SparkToro, however, we have found some clever use cases. We primarily use ChatGPT and we use their API. We make calls against the API when, depending on the kind of search that someone does, we will try and expand the data set that we have using essentially words that frequently come after other words, which LLMs are great at doing, right? So we might say, for example, hey, you searched for, let's say, executives at food and beverage companies in the UK. And we might go to ChatGPT and say, hey, what are other titles and roles that we should be looking for that are essentially the same as, executive manager or executive director of food and beverage brand? We'll go get those other ones, and then we can add that into the query expansion so that when we look through our database of, hundreds of millions of LinkedIn profiles, we can also include those profiles, which substantially mean the same thing. So we're doing stuff like that with it. We find it useful. We have this new section coming soon called Take Action, which is essentially us taking a bunch of prompts that we've seen our customers use with their audience research data. So a lot of people, yourself included, I think, Gianluca, right? You'll export the CSV from SparkToro, upload that to ChatGPT or Claude, and then you'll ask questions like, hey, give me a bunch of whatever content ideas that this audience would be likely to resonate with, or give me some visuals on social media that I could use. Give me some ideas for videos that I might film of these podcasts that SparkToro said, which ones accept pitches for guests. It's that kind of thing that people are doing already with our data. And we thought, hey, we should just take those prompts, bake them into SparkToro. And so you can go from a research report, click Take Action, choose which task you want to accomplish based on the audience research data, connect the two right there and get the output inside SparkToro.
Yeah, that's really cool because it's a good way to maintain also, let's say, one project inside only one place, because one of the problematic is that there are so many tools sometimes, or really popping too many tools in my bed. Yes, when you have piece a bit of what you're doing, and then you are obliged to do the classic merge into one gigantic CSV in Google Workspace. And you know that Gemini is spying on you because it's activated on Google Workspace. Right. And yes. And okay, so let's try to go. Are you experimenting with all the things that Google is trying people to experiment, make test with?
Like the AI mode stuff and all that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't played around with it much. Back in my SEO days, I would have been, I got to spend a lot of time in here. Now, no, I don't have to bother. I do spend a lot of time. I mean, I spend a lot of time with other forms of audience research. So I look at a lot of like surveys and interviews, market research stuff, how other people are producing reports, talk to people about their processes and that kind of thing. And then I spend a lot of time in video games. I play 15 minutes of like a lot of games, right? And not a lot more. But yeah, my research in SEO is basically non-existent these days.
Well, I mean, but anyway, because of what we have said before about using the search results as a zero-click marketing space, if I was you, I would test at least the web guide.
Okay.
Because that is fine. It's interesting because it's would be a good solution also for publisher, because the links are there. People can click.
I saw some screenshots
But it's also interesting because it's organized in a way that if you are asking for something, for instance, for ideas for a travel I tested with Washington because I'm going to go to spend my vacation in Washington, D.C. So I tested. I saw what are the things that I can do with during 8 days with a family, two teenagers, blah, blah, blah. And it's organizing. It's cool. The idea that I found that is essentially creating a pillar in with subtopics, let's say, which are chapters with a question and a series of link, and also text from AI. So they are integrated well. So I hope that many people will try it. So also you, and say, hey, great, Google, trash in the bin, AI overview, go for this. It's the good solution for everybody. And I think it's a good solution because nobody else has it.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I am surprised at the number of people who say they've switched away from using Google toward AI tools entirely. That surprises me a lot because
Yeah.
I can't find a way to substitute ChatGPT for my Google use or Bing use or DuckDuckGo use. Like, it just, so much of what I do in those places is navigational. So much of it is like exploratory into other things. If I ask ChatGPT, like, hey, I'm looking for a men's tuxedo shoe, I get a list of things, and then I find out, like, the hallucination problem where Dolce and Gabbana doesn't actually make a brogue tuxedo
Or
shoe.
maybe it's
Like,
going to give you a direction to a place where there is nothing but, I don't know,
yeah,
totally
right.
different thing.
Clicking on the Google image results or the Google shopping results, it's just way, way better, right? And like, oh, I'm looking for flights to Tokyo. Google Flights is very helpful. ChatGPT is still not great. Like, it doesn't do the job. But regardless of that, I think that the era of zero click marketing, no matter what direction Google chooses, is here because of how people consume content. We looked at,
Yes.
with clickstream data, Gianluca, we looked at essentially, what people do with their day on the internet. Search is this much. It's less than 10% of all the visits that people make on the internet are to any form of search. I don't care if we're talking about AI tools or traditional search or whatever. What people spend a lot of time doing is browsing Reddit, watching YouTube videos, watching TikTok. 4.5, 5 hours a day in the US of watching TikTok, right?
I think it's the same here in Europe.
It's not, that's not influenceable through creating content on your website.
No, yes, but I
You
remember a
can't do
study
it.
that you also described. Let's be honest, when we use ChatGPT, how we use it. I mean, we use it
When we
for
looked at it, yeah,
creating image, asking questions that Google will eventually answer with an answer box. So something that you have, something which neither in the classic search would bring a click. And
yeah,
then
I think
what?
that most of the tasks, when we did our analysis of ChatGPT prompts, which was classifying maybe around 1 million prompts, right, last year, it was 70% plus generative tasks. Like, it
Yes.
was things you would never do and could not do with a search engine. So, it'd be things like, hey, will you help me write this email? Hey, will you brainstorm some ideas for this? Hey, will you, whatever, I'm having trouble with my relationship with my daughter. Like, will you give me some ideas of conversations to have with her? I think almost 40%, maybe a little more than 40% of all AI prompts were something to do with programming. That's not, that's not a search, right?
No,
It's
yeah,
not
yes.
equivalent.
It's like because it's conversational and it's easier for a person to conversate, even if
Yeah.
it's a bot, but it has the trick is that it has a voice. So it would be cool to see how many of these conversations are made with a voice chat. Because especially if the classic situation, like in the movie, where you put if you are a guy, you put a cool voice of a robot that sounds like an actress that maybe sounds like Scarlett Johansson, and as it was happening in the very beginning of a voice chat of ChatGPT, and yes, you start conversating and you forget you're not conversing with a person. So you can start asking things. And this is something that other friends of mine that were analyzing this kind of behavior also
Mm.
seeing. But yes, it's actually what you were saying, which is coming back to search. It's really how search behavior has changed. And I always talk about the messy middle, because the messy middle is you have a trigger, and the trigger can be you walking on the street and seeing something in the shop, or can be you are in the shop and doing showrooming with Google Lens,
Yeah.
or maybe you are in ChatGPT, in this case doing a search, but then going to YouTube, because it's say in this YouTube channel, and you go to YouTube and search for YouTube, and then the YouTuber is recommending something, and so you click and go with a referral click to the website, and then go to Google to see reviews about this tool. So that's why the search journey is really becoming so. And this was clear when we start seeing that the queries were getting longer and longer and longer and longer over years, because people started to learn how to search. Before it was hotel, Seattle. Now, I want an hotel in Seattle, 4-star with breakfast included, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so almost 1 hour.
I know. I was going to say I have to run in a couple minutes here. So
Yeah. So let's stop talking about marketing. Let's start talking about you.
okay.
Tell us more about this video game.
Sure. So it was Snack Bar. It's called the Snack Bar at the End of the World. That's the provisional working title. We haven't formally announced the game. We haven't put up a trailer yet, any of those things. So it's probably still at least 18 months to 2 years away. We'll most likely make an announcement about 9 to 12 months before it launches. And that's for marketing reasons, actually. If you study how games perform, they tend to lose their audience excitement if they haven't come out for more than a year after they've been announced. And we don't want to lose any marketing excitement, so we want to carefully time that. The game is set in 1960s Italy, sort of a magical alternate reality version. And you play a chef in a small hilltop town on the border between and Lazio. And you're running a restaurant with your brother. Your aunt who owned the restaurant has been thrown in prison, and you're trying to make enough money to break her out of prison. And in order to do this, you need to go out into the dangerous magical wilds around the town, and you fight boars and chicken and artichokes. Yes, even the artichokes will come attack you. And you need the artichokes to make carciofi alla giudea, or you need the pancetta da guanciale from the boar to make your spaghetti alla carbonara. And so you find these recipes and traditional dishes. You use the ingredients that you get in the wilds. You make them. You make lire, the old Italian currency, and then you can use the lira to upgrade your restaurant, upgrade your weapons and armor, go fight more dangerous monsters, and eventually, hopefully, break your aunt out of prison.
Cool. I mean, it was. I mean, when you said it later, my old memories were coming back. And let's talk about memories. Usually, the question is, what would you say to the younger yourself? Now, the question is, what you would never say to the younger yourself?
Oh my God. So I think about this sometimes when people say, what would you change from the past, or what would you do differently? And there's this weird part of me, Gianluca, that reflects on the fact that I have an extremely lucky life, like almost exactly the life that I would want, or that my 12-year-old self would want. I get to work on a video game. I have other jobs, SparkToro and Alert Mouse, which, hopefully make money and do well. They're enjoyable. I get to work with people I like. I have a wonderful marriage to Geraldine. I have so many wonderful friendships all over the world. I get to travel and eat amazing things. I just feel incredibly blessed and lucky. And so part of me says, I don't know that I would change too much. Like, I went through painful things and I made terrible mistakes, really awful mistakes at Moz for sure. But also, gosh, I don't know, I wouldn't want to curse myself into a world where, for example, let's say I hadn't made some of these bad mistakes at Moz. Let's say Moz had become an incredibly, whatever, SEMrush, right? Instead of SEMrush going public, it was Moz that went public, and I was the CEO, and we had this extraordinary thing, and I became, I don't know, worth hundreds of millions or $1 billion or something. Have you met people? I don't know how many people you know who are like worth those numbers. I know almost none of them who are happy people, who are like happy, contented, fulfilled, in good marriages, in good situations with their families, have close friendships. Like, they have to become insular and protective, and they're always worried about their security and their privacy. And I don't worry about any of that stuff. I live in a regular house. Anyone get, like I don't have to. I drive a regular car. I can go out in public. It's great. Like, I think I'm not a complete asshole. And 99.9% of those people who are worth those numbers are just terrible. I don't know if that's correlation or causation, but
Maybe
I'm deeply
it's usually there is the consideration that people of that kind, but also super successful surgeons or super successful politicians sometimes also, they have a little bit of, they are just a little bit or more or less psychopath. No, in the sense that, psychopath is someone who has a very low, if null, sense of empathy.
right.
And for instance, being a little bit psychopath for a surgeon is perfect. It's needed, because if it was too empathic when he's in an urgency operation, imagine he wouldn't be able to do it.
Right. I see. Yeah.
So also for instance, sometimes also in the laws or something, policemen, the detectives sometimes have this kind of characteristics. But yes, I mean, I prefer to be more empathic than psychopathic. So I totally agree with what you say. I think that with this and knowing that you have to go, thank you, Rand. It was a real pleasure to have you here. And let's probably, I know that you're a busy, super requested man, but let's, one day in the future, let's do another episode with you. So
So
to look back what we have said and do an update.
I love it. Sounds great. Gianluca, thank you so much for having me. Take care of yourself, my friend.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody here. Just let me do the creator stuff now. Just 1 second. Remember to give it a like to the video, subscribe to the channel, so you're going to be noticed about a new incoming episode of the Search Session. Thank you and bye-bye.